Welcome everyone. Great to see you as you're dropping in. Great to see you. Oh, hello. Hello, Roy. Hi, Mo. Hi, Jazz. Hi, Maverick. Welcome, Carlo, and welcome, Tracy. Oh, I love a video. Love a video. We will get started in just a minute. I'm wondering, this is the first time we've run this kind of panel across the world. So we've got people from Asia, Australasia, and also Europe. So I'm wondering if you wouldn't mind popping in the chat box where you're dialing in from, just so that the panel members know where you're all from. And I will start. I am in Auckland in New Zealand.
I don't have access to the chat window, so I will guess where you are.
You don't have? Is that your company? That's your
yes.
company. Oh, we've got Brighton, the UK. Lovely. London, Scotland, Singapore. Yay. Bianca's in London. Hey, Jazz, you're in London. That might be. Did we get everyone?
Viewers in Scotland, I hope you're enjoying my home country. I do miss it. I hope it's nice and cold.
It's me, Ross. So yeah.
You're here. Great. See you here. Aberdeen, it's even colder than Glasgow.
Brilliant. Well, I'm going to continue to let people in, but I'm going to come over to you, Ross, to get the proceedings started.
Of course. Hi, everyone. So just a quick introduction to me. So my name is Ross Ellingham. My pronouns is he, him. I do like to see myself as Ross normally, but he, him. My job title is Managing Director for Vote International Singapore. Vote International, unfortunately, I'm not like the other hosts are diversity and inclusion specialists. I am a recruitment specialist. I suppose where I add some variation to the discussion is I see what other companies do. I see what their DE&I strategy is, or where it lacks, and I've seen what does and does not work. I am, as I just acknowledged with Tracy, Scottish, white male, blue eyes. I used to have blonde hair. It's kind of went brownish. It's now going a bit greyish. And International Women's Day. I was saying to Lisa before the call, it's important to me because I have two sons, and International Women's Day is important to me because I hope that when they're in my position in 30 years' time, or maybe a little bit more, that this is not something we have to discuss because everyone is just seen as everyone, and we're all inclusive and we're all just the same, and everyone's treated equally. The equity piece which is going on just now, where people are paid the same money and people are getting what they want from their career, is accessible. So that's why it's important to me, because it's something that shouldn't have to be something we talk about. But I'm very thankful we do, because at least it pushes it to the front of the conversation, and we have a chance and a real opportunity to kind of change things. So today we have the pleasure of have a wonderful host in Lisa. She's the moderator for our discussion. So Lisa Mulligan. Lisa is based in New Zealand. She did used to be here in Asia. She's the CEO of diversity inclusion consultancy called the Culture Ministry. She has over 20 years experience in diversity inclusion, human resources, organizational change and development. She is also, if you're ever interested, the host and presenter of a great podcast, which is called A Dog Called Diversity, which we're happy to send you the link to. This showcases.
I'm going to go find it.
I have it here if you want me to. I'll have a link here which you sent. If I can work I'll keep talking. This showcases.
You keep talking. I'll find it.
It showcases people's stories who explore different various themes around diversity and inclusion. Around Asia Pacific, Europe, so you can really understand what people go through, how businesses can help, explore and change things. She also has been very grateful to partner with Volt International to do a diversity inclusion market salary survey last year, and thankfully into this year, which we'll be launching in March, so we can help educate and bring to businesses, you know, insight, information that can help them with their, you know, their D&I strategy. So over to Lisa.
Thank you so much, Ross. And it's been such a pleasure working with Volt over the last couple of years. And I'm really excited to partner with you again on a salary and market survey that we're going to extend into Europe. So last year we did it in APAC, and I'm really excited we're going to cover the European market this year. So very exciting. A little bit about me. I am a white woman with blonde hair, and I have blue eyes. I wear glasses, and I'm wearing a black jacket and a white top with some sparkles on it because it's quite late here in Auckland. It's after 10 p.m. and I felt like I needed something to keep me alive and awake. So a little bit about me. A lot of my work has been in male-dominated industrial type businesses, and I've lived and worked in Australia. I've spent the last sort of 8 years in Singapore, did a really short stint in the UK, and I've now moved to Auckland, New Zealand. I am Australian, however. I think International Women's Day is still important to me because when I look at the progress we've made on a whole range of fronts, so getting women into senior leadership roles, getting women into government and political positions where they have a voice in making a decision for the communities that we work in. When I still look at the rate of child marriage, 1 in 5 girls under the age of 18 is married off, and that has huge implications for her ongoing economic access, her ability to, you know, earn more, to be educated. We know that under 2% of seed investment and investment funds go to women's startups. And I could go on as to why International Women's Day is still so important. I thought I would tell you a little bit about the day. So International Women's Day has been running for over 100 years, and the first gathering was in 1911. And it's a global day to celebrate the social, economic, cultural and political achievements of women. But more importantly, I think, is that it's making a call to action that things are still not equitable. And often, you know, so it's really important to me that in organisations we run really good events and that we do things that are meaningful. And I'm particularly riled up this year because the International Women's Day organisation has decided that the pose for the year will be for people to hug themselves. And I just, you know, it's, for me, it's not meaningful. It doesn't make change. And so here we are talking about what can you do in events that are meaningful, that will make change and help gender equity in your organisations. So I'm going to hop off my soapbox now and ask the panel to introduce themselves. So I'm going to start with you, Sudesh.
Hello, everybody. I'm Sudesh Thevasenabathy. I'm Malaysian of Indian origin, nice brown skin. I'm wearing a gray suit with a pink tie, and I've got too much gray hair that is enough for me. And I'm based in Hong Kong. I work for Manulife, and I'm currently the Asia head of diversity, equity, and inclusion. And I've been with this role for the last 2.5 years. It is the best career of my entire 25 years of working. In my previous roles, I studied engineering. I did electronics and computing, and I moved across different industries in manufacturing, design, business, tobacco, even banking, insurance, on all aspects of operations and innovations and technology. And one day when you hit your midlife crisis, you wake up and you say, enough is enough, and let's do something absolutely different. And I took this career, which is the best decision I ever made. So that's me. International Women's Day. So IWD every year, again, it's one of those things that do you only use one day to celebrate the success of women and the challenges that women have faced over the hundreds of years. And we only started talking about women and women empowerment only very recently, since the 60s. and then in the Me Too movement. And even until today, we are seeing pockets of, while we see pockets of change, there's still so much more that we can do and improve. And then when you throw in the element of intersectionality, that women are not just women alone. We have women who come from all different shapes and sizes and backgrounds, from women of color, women with disabilities, women of different sexual orientation. So how does it happen then? Your glass ceiling becomes a double glass ceiling or triple glass ceiling. So the challenges permeate and it goes beyond. And IWD becomes a day where we acknowledge not only the success, but also the challenges and an opportunity to use this to do more as workplace, as corporates, as individuals, as also community leaders. So there's a lot to unpack in the upcoming IWD. So I hope this panel, we can share a lot more stories.
Thank you, Sudesh. Now over to you, Bianca. There you go.
My computer. Hi everyone. Well, it's good morning for me, but I know it's for you. It's very late at night. Here is pretty early, not that early. 9:13. My husband's coming down the stairs in London. I recently moved here from Singapore, where I spent 15 years doing work on diversity and inclusion and well-being across the region. And most recently, I've been also very focused on sustainability, which I think, you know, from an ESG perspective, having one of the SDGs specifically focused on gender equity, it's something that is very relevant for companies to start thinking how gender plays not only a part on some, you know, speak and spiel that they have branding commitments. They also have this now fundamental ESG commitment to truly be a sustainable company. So I think this is something that you know, all companies will need to start taking a little bit more seriously. But I'm soon to join in a global role for diversity and inclusion here in London. And I'm very delighted to be here with you all. My work across, you know, the last 15 years on this has shifted a lot my views on International Women's Day. I think that I have moved between loving it and hating it and wanting it never to exist and feeling that it was a must to have. So I think it wanes, but it's very important. And Lisa was just commenting before when we were having a chat here amongst the panel. I just came back from Egypt, you know, 5,000, 6,000 years of history. And then you realize that, you know, we did a lot over the last 50 years because we've been under the patriarchy for 6,000 years. So, you know, I think we need to be very aware that there was a lot of change that has happened over the last decades, and congratulate ourselves for awakening to that idea, because it has been millennia of women being literally erased from history or not even talked about. So I think it is important to talk about women. I think it is important to raise them, to make sure that they have their stake in the history they are making. And International Women's Day has that role in some ways to give a shout out to great women, and that's probably what I love more about the day. So thank you for having me.
Yeah, thanks, Bianca. And I really get that piece around sometimes your interest in the day wanes. Some years you're excited, and other years you just wish the whole thing would go away. And over the years in my career, I've been responsible for numerous events, both within organisations. I've run public events. A couple of years I ran global events in big global companies. And you know, sometimes measuring success of your events and your messaging is really hard, but I know the ones I think back to that I thought were just so awful and the ones that were really great. So I'm going to come to the panel and ask, like, what do you think makes a successful International Women's Day? I'm going to come to you first, Ross.
Hi. I think one of the things that I like to always have a conversation with people, and especially for us that have, you know, regional roles, global roles, roles that encompass many cultures, is that culturally that day is viewed differently, and women are viewed differently culturally as well. And so it is very difficult, I think, to a certain extent, to say to people, you know, this is how an International Women's Day should look like, or this is the perfect event, or right. I might be coming I am coming very much from my own perspective and my own experiences, and you know, having seen a lot of events and saying, well, you know, I like when it takes a more career development approach. I like when events are more around, as I was mentioning, you know, highlighting women and their historical importance, their industry importance. I don't particularly like, you know, getting a rose or a spa or something like that, but it doesn't mean that that's not okay in other places. I think that you have to take the cultural lenses very strongly on International Women's Day, because, you know, for some people, this could be a bit of a, you know, a political platform, and for others, this is really a day to celebrate women and femininity and you know, what women are. But deep down, this is correlated to how women are seen as a whole, holistically in that society. So you have to unpack a lot of other views, right? Of, for instance, women being feminine, you know, being very, you know, this idea of roses and pink and things like that. From my point of view, so you need to be very, very clear of where your biases are. My bias is that this is not how I want to be seen as a woman. I don't want that to be the main thing. But do I want to do away with being feminine? I'm wearing like huge earrings. I put makeup on to be in this panel. You got all dressed up. So it's not like we are saying this is wrong. This is not how women should be seen. It's a lot of that. I think it's very important that the people in the markets that are running those events feel that they are honoring women in the best way possible. And I think the second piece is making sure that you have a lot of involvement, as Sudesh was saying, of different women in this process, and making sure that you don't have a homogeneous sort of panel of organizers for that event. And it doesn't come from the DE&I head or the DE&I council. It comes from women in the business to women in the business representing their diversity. I think that's the most key. And if they decide that they want to do, like we had, I attended an Ikebana session once in Japan, flower making, and it was amazing. And it was, they chose that. And then we had a discussion on entrepreneurship and how to open your flower shop. I loved it. So I thought it was, you know, it's something that is fair. That's for me the most key, that the people that are doing it, yeah, are doing it for themselves in that sense.
Yeah, I really like your point around you have to be mindful of the context and the culture that you're running events in, and I guess trying to send messages about. And I've certainly been caught out myself moving to Singapore and going to, when I first moved to Singapore, and you know, they did give flowers to the women, and the Singaporean women thought that was amazing. I was kind of on the pissed off side of things, because a flower does not make up for gender pay gaps. But it was still something that was really important in that culture.
Unless it's made of gold and diamonds, then, you know, maybe.
Well, exactly. Let's get serious now. Gold and diamonds. Ross, what's your take on what makes a good International Women's Day?
You know, I have a slightly different take to Bianca, which is interesting. I really respect her point. When I've worked in Australia, Dubai, Hong Kong, Singapore, I've not done International Women's Day in Singapore so far. Every time I've done it, it's not been a great event. I felt like they've just taken the ladies in the room and went for lunch or given them a book to read, which is like, you know, how to be a boss. And it's not really been educational. And the guys in the room have been like, well, why am I getting singled out? Why am I not getting included? So for me, a great event personally for me would be something that can educate everyone and make everyone feel inclusive. So there's lots of guys out there that don't understand why this is a big deal, why this is important, because they've not had anyone educate them on why it is. I mean, if you look at the younger generation, they don't know what's happened for the last 6,000 years. They just think everything is on an iPhone and they can just play, you know. So having a situation where everyone feels inclusive and it's a positive event, which is around future and how we can all work together and how everyone is equal and why everyone should be treated the same. And what's important about having a powerful, diverse, if you look at a board of a company, what's important about having a diverse board is that it stops groupthink. So if you've got 5 white men on a board, you've got groupthink. Whereas if you look at the 5 of us on this panel, we're all very different. So that would stop groupthink. We'd all have different opinions. We could probably run the business better. So that going forward in the future, they understand and they know why this is a big deal. And it doesn't have to be. I don't like that. Here's the flowers. Here, let's go for lunch. It should be around positivity and growth and education for me personally. But I've never been in a business that's done that. Unfortunately, when I was in Dubai, it was non-existent. In Hong Kong, it was just let's just go for lunch.
Sure.
So I hope in the future I can work for a business which maybe something I can look at doing this year is we have a session where people understand why not just women in general, but diversity inclusion in general is an important thing to help businesses move forward and why everyone should be paid the same and should be treated the same. And that flips on to men. I've got 2 young boys. Last year in Hong Kong I got 2 days paternal leave. My son was born. I couldn't help my wife out. I had to go straight back to work. And that's unfair on her, and it's unfair on me because I miss things. So there's lots to be addressed in general.
Yeah. So Roy said, totally agree, Ross. As a dad to 3 sons and 1 daughter, I'm constantly amazed at their more progressive, inclusive attitudes they have, fostered by school as well as home. I learn a lot from them. Yeah, I have really noticed that the generation that's coming through is much more accepting. Things don't bother them so much.
Yeah, I have a so this is way off topic, but I have a 11-year-old sister back in Scotland, and the things that she is much more open to than I would have been when I was 11, living in Scotland, being controlled when it comes to sexuality, these sort of things. They just are so much more. They just don't seem to care. It's just okay, that's life, whatever, which is good, positive.
Yeah. Yes, and Bianca said the force is strong in this generation, and it so is. And I really liked your point about why would you have events with just women when you're leaving out half the population. So firstly, that's not inclusive, but we need everyone to be part of the solution. And running events with just women is crazy, in my opinion.
Agreed.
Yeah. So Sudesh, what do you think? Because you run a few International Women's Days now as the head of DE&I at Manulife. So what are the things that you think have made them successful?
You know what? Maybe we picked on things that mean something for everyone. So everybody has something to do or something to be part of. And so like last year, I think I went overboard and organized close to...
you got super creative last year, didn't you? Please tell us. It was amazing.
So we organized 55 events globally over the entire month. I think went overboard. And in Hong Kong, we did a live broadcast of 4 events every week with very senior people from the industry on various topics, including menopause and andropause. And we spoke about women at home and challenges being faced and career and progression. And it was just, everybody had something to join and participate. All the local markets had events, campaigns. There was flower making, as Bianca said. There were origami paper folding. There was book reading. We have sports activities, family events. It was just we had a calendar document, a PDF document, and I only had 1-page size. So the font size was 7 to put all of those activities in one page. And not only that, we actually lighted all our buildings purple for the entire month across the region. So wherever we were operating,
wow.
so like Manulife Tower is going to go purple again for the whole month. And so we overdid it, and which was hence why all the gray hair. So this year we are a bit smarter. So we brought it down to 25 events globally. But we listened to what the people wanted. I think you tell us what you want to do and how would you like to acknowledge
I like that.
operate the day. Gone are the days where we do it and then you join. Nobody will join. You know, and we realized some of the events, there was no participants. There were like single-digit numbers audiences. So you know what? We're stopping that. You tell us what you want. And one of the feedback was they said they wanted to hear more about microaggressions and inclusive language. Cool. In fact, inclusive language is our key theme for this year. So in our upcoming big event that we are hosting from Asia for the first time, which is going to be broadcast globally to all 40,000 employees, I was lucky enough to secure the CEO of JP Morgan Hong Kong, the Asia CEO of Royal Bank of Canada, and our visiting Group Chief Marketing Officer on a very special panel. And they will be talking about microaggressions and their experiences being microaggressed. And it is a diverse panel of equal number of male and female from different races and backgrounds and different age gaps as well. So we kind of made it really diverse. And we're going to talk about microaggressions in a very generic sense, because everyone is microaggressed, not just women. Men do get microaggressed. And if you come from different racial backgrounds, you also get it. And microaggression can be verbal and also visual. So we're going to talk about it. And can you imagine these leaders talking about microaggression and how they experienced microaggression before they became a leader themselves? You know, so we are doing it. We are broadcasting it live across Manulife globally to 40,000 employees, across JP Morgan, across Asia, across Royal Bank of Canada, across Asia, and all people are invited for free. So anybody here wants to join, I'm more than happy to send the link.
Yeah.
And you can join it live and watch it on March 8th. Again, this is one of the things that we wanted to do, just because somebody asked, let's talk about it.
Yeah.
And
send us the link, Sudesh, and I'll share it with everyone.
More than happy. I'll share the link across, and it's going to be a big event. And I think this is where it met. If you hear the audience and see what they want, and then we can do it. So here at Manulife, we have about 40,000 employees globally. We have 1/3 of our population being part of ERG. 1/3. So 14,000 employees are members of an ERG. Which is a huge feat already. The Global Women's Alliance is the largest ERG at Manulife, with over 6,000 members globally, with the largest chapters. They've got 13 chapters across all the different segments. And we collaborate. So not only GWA collaborates with Proud, collaborates with Embrace, we do a lot of intersectional events. So this year was very unique. So all our IWD events are not done by only GWA. They are cross-pollinated by the various ERGs, combined forces to do various events. So then you get suddenly a huge participation rate beyond just the women. You get the Proud teams collaborating, male allies collaborating, the disability group collaborating. So the topics are so minutely different. In Philippines, you're organizing a session with some Paralympians who won the gold medals. And it's a joint organized between Ability and GWA. In Indonesia, there's doing one with the racial group and the women's group to talk about religion and women. And in North America, the Vibe group, which is for the Black community, they're joining with GWA to do a book reading with Black authors, Black female authors, who are visiting the office. So you suddenly see different elements of storytelling, and you can join anything that you want. And all the events, the videos are made available for all employees to watch at any time after the event. So suddenly you have
so cool.
Yeah, I wanted
So
to pick on
cool.
that point because that's
Yep.
something that we did in Visa as well. And I mean, in JP Morgan, it's kind of where I kind of learned that when you have so many ERGs, they are always competing for your time and your budget.
Yes.
And they always, you know, and then you kind of say, okay, now this is your month to shine. And they kind of go they all want to go all out on this big event. And there's, you know, budget is finite. So from a budget perspective, it's great to get them together. But I think Sudesh raised this point, the richness of the storytelling becomes a lot more interesting, right? Because you put that intersectionality almost by force and saying, let's look at this together. And where do we cross? Where do we join? And in Visa, we actually had that in our ERG guidelines, that they had to have at least one event a year with another ERG. They could choose which one, and up to, you know, half of their plan could be shared with other ERGs in terms of, so that they thought about this from the beginning, because we had a lot of, especially when you have sites where you have like 4 or 6 types of ERGs in one location, like in Hong Kong, I'm sure you have. It's very hard when you look at your calendar of the year, it's crazy, you know, so thinking about that actually brings the narrative for the employee that actually doesn't want to pick one, right? Because the employee is not just one, it's probably a variety of that, right? Like if you're Black lesbian, for instance, you get to pick at least three ERGs, at least, right? And so I think that is important, because that's not, we don't label ourselves kind of single-minded in that way, but we kind of sort of, the ERG model is not taught that way, because the ERG model comes from an activism background, right? It's really around grassroots activism, and so it is very single-minded. But I think now, when we think more and more about intersectionality and limiting budgets, I think it's very, very key to bring that that element and kind of force them a little bit to say, think together about this topic.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You know, Bianca, you just said it, because I think there's a lot of cynicism going around celebrating these kind of dates, right? So it's like, just because you celebrate it doesn't mean that you really believe in equity at the workplace, right? So the cynicism rise, or just because you run a lunch, you do that, you're celebrating IWD. How are you tracking in your gender parity at work? How are you looking at participation of women in leadership? How are you looking at participation of women across the organization? How are you hearing voices of all in that space? Just because you celebrate IWD doesn't mean you do all of those things. And
actually, I think that's the main point, is that you shouldn't be celebrating if you cannot talk about something substantial around, you know, around policies and processes and metrics. You know, if not, it is pink washing, purple washing, whatever. It's just washing, right? It's just PR. And I think if people are looking at any research now, Gen Z is 100% more savvy to see through your, you know, BS on social media than any other generation so far. So it's very important that you can substantiate with facts. Or I think the flip side, and I'm starting to talk about Pride Month with the company that I'm joining, in just thinking about, and the first thing, you know, I told them is like, what can we actually talk about before we talk about how we change the colors of the logo? Because, you know, yeah.
Everyone wants a rainbow logo, Bianca. Come on. Come on.
it's just nice.
It is so nice. It is so nice. I wanted to summarize a bit about what you talked about, Sudesh, because I think there was a couple of learnings there about what good events could look like. The first one was, I guess, experimentation, where you kind of did, last year, did this fire hydrant of events. And sometimes we need to experiment and see what's going to land and what's not. And I think what was great about that is you had something for everyone. You had lots of diversity. You did admit that you'd overdid it, but you listened to the people. So I think that's another really important thing in your events, that you're doing things that people want, but perhaps also align with where the company is heading in gender equity. You also do lots of things that are intersectional, which is so important. there's some great research that just came out of Australia, a group of not-for-profits who work in, I think mainly race equity kind of space in Australia, came together and did a research project on International Women's Day and do all the women who exist in Australia, and it's a very multicultural society like many of the ones that we live in. Do they feel seen on International Women's Day? And of course the answer was no, that if you weren't a white woman in Australia, you don't feel seen on International Women's Day. Often panels are very white, lots of people who look like me. And the issues around race equity along with gender are not seen. So that's kind of one example. And I think you're doing a great job of that, Sudesh. I love that you've got your own theme. And if we have time, I want to ask about themes, because I kind of have a view that organisations should pick their own theme to an extent. And you do lots of local things. So having women authors or reading books from Black women authors in the US is so specific to that part of the world, whereas making flowers and doing origami suits other cultures. So I really liked that as well. So some really good learnings there, I thought. I'm just going to have a little look. We've got a question for the panel later. I'll come back to that. Yep, cool. So let's talk about themes. Should we have a theme? There's good things about having a theme for International Women's Day. There's bad themes. Ross, what do you think? Do you have a view on whether we should have themes or not?
And obviously it's equity at the moment, isn't it?
Embrace equity.
When I first seen
or the official one.
Yeah.
And UN Women has a different theme, which is around women and girls in technology and digital. Yeah, that wasn't a very eloquent way to say it, but yeah.
Which is cool, and as someone who recruits in technical worlds, the more females we can get in there, the better, personally. It's very male dominated, same as engineering, and it shouldn't be. When it comes to the equity piece, I must admit, when I first seen it, because I was talking to my wife about it, I thought, how do you get equity in a business? Because that's the only thing I knew what equity was. So I had to go and do some research. I kind of understand it, and I like the idea of, you know, everyone is moving towards what works for them. But does it confuse matters to me a little bit? It makes it a little bit less straightforward than, you know, how do we change the norms? How do we move forward? You know, it's almost like a buzzword. And a bit what Bianca said a minute ago. Yep. My experience of International Women's Day with companies is it's a LinkedIn marketing tool. Everyone, at the moment, everyone will be doing this and saying equity, and they'll be taking a photo or a video, and it'll be going on their LinkedIn on the 8th of March, and it'll be forgotten about within 10 seconds. So,
it may not be, because can you imagine asking a leader to do that in your business, your senior leaders? Can you please hug yourself so we can take a photo and put it on LinkedIn? I reckon you're going to be talking about that for a few days.
Yeah, a few days then. But you know what I mean. It's not really getting the point across. It's almost like a gimmick.
Not for the right reasons.
Yeah.
I mean, like Ross, you're saying, this is where I was coming to also, right? Because are you doing it for the sake of doing it because it looks good for PR purposes? Yeah. You know, it looks good on LinkedIn, colorful stuff, and all those people smiling supposedly, or because you're doing it in celebrating that you have done well, your policies are working, things are looking good in your company, and you are celebrating those successes. Now that is where I think it would matter. So that means for you to do origami and for you to do all those different things, because you feel, you know what, it's a great company. I don't mind doing origami now because I feel I'm included. I feel that I have a voice. All the fights and the challenges I posed for the last 20 odd years seems to work out for me now. Now you're going to do your origami. You know, so I'm looking from another angle that there's two ways of skinning the same way. That you're doing it just as lip service and you're being hypocritical about the whole thing. Or you're doing it because, you know what, you're celebrating. Yes, there's still a long ways to go, but we have done quite well. You know,
which would be lovely. Unfortunately, in the industry I work in, it's definitely lip service.
Which is true.
We are very much, if you look at mean, I'm looking at staffing in general. It's a very male-dominated environment. If you look at all the big companies, Michael Page, Robert Walters, Hayes, Hudson, the senior C-suite and the MDs, the regional CEOs are all men, white men, traditionally. So there's not just the female gap there, there's the racial gap. And that to me, when we get asked to do it, I'm not saying Volt's the same, because I've only recently joined Volt. It feels like you're just getting forced into pushing a message which isn't really lived within the business, which is something that we need to fight to change, and it's something which will take time. And not every recruitment business is the same, because I'm tarring the whole industry with one brush, and that's not fair. But as a generality for the companies I've worked for, it's always felt a little forced. I've not had the pleasure of working for a Manulife, who are a multinational 40,000 employee. I've always been within a different style of organisation, which are probably companies that need to think about things a bit more. How do you look at an SME? How do they change their diversity? It's not just about the big companies, is it? It's about every company.
That's a question. I mean, I have had conversations with SMEs as well, where they are, if you look at especially tech, and if you look at the Silicon Valley, for instance, the lack of diversity on startups, and a lot of times there was this leader actually once in a company that I worked at. He was saying, when you are in a startup, when you are an SME, you're kind of sprinting. You're not doing a relay. You are sprinting. Everyone is just running at the fastest pace, and so at that moment, you most probably miss diversity. You lack diversity because you want a very, very similar team actually that runs and thinks exactly the same pace. So there is no dissident on that start push. But to win broader markets, to grow, to from becoming from an S to an E to an L kind of size, you need that diversity. You looked at Facebook is a very good classic case example of showing how to become the company that they are today, they couldn't just be a bunch of guys from Stanford kind of thing. So it was I think it's important that there is that level of discussion with leadership, that they understand the cost of that lack of diversity, because they are only seeing the cost of how of getting diversity, or the conversations around diversity, when they say, well, but my business has been the same for like 50 years and I'm happy, I'm profitable, I'm doing all right. And so I think the conversation with business leaders is always like, how much better than all right could you be doing? Like, what is the missing revenue, right? What is the missing growth? What is it that you're not seeing? What is it that you don't know because I think that I've worked as Lisa in a lot of very male dominated environments, where very financially focused, where I think there was not a lot of understanding of the missed opportunity. There was just understanding of how it was now. So I think that missed opportunity, but also being upfront by saying, I always say the beginning of any 12-step program, the first step is acknowledging you have a problem. So if you don't do that first step of acknowledging you have a problem, you can't do all the other 10, 9, 11 steps that you have to do on that road to recovery. So even if that is the message, we have a problem and we are working on it, I think that that's a message that is worth sharing, to make sure that your employees know that you've taken the first step. Because I think a lot of people feel that, they don't know, they think it's great, they're not doing anything, they're not working on it, there's nothing happening, because a lot of the work that we do is in the background, is policies, recruitment takes a very long time, changing leadership makeup takes a very long time. So I think that, celebrate if you've done well, but also recognize if you can do better, and be upfront about it.
Yeah, such good advice, Bianca. Such good advice. I've got a really great question for the panel, and this is kind of a common problem that we see in organisations and we see on International Women's Day at events. So the question is, one of my female colleagues who organises monthly networking events for recruiters. The events are well attended. I found myself on a panel where everyone else was a white man or a leader of their business. I asked her why. When she promotes events, she invites women, but many of them don't want to step up. How can she balance her future panels and encourage more women to step up? This is a really common issue. What do you think? Who would like?
You know
Ross,
what?
do you want to talk first?
Super interesting, isn't it? It's there's so many. I mean, there's so many things you could pick apart from that question. Talking from my experience of, you know, working with women and helping them find jobs and helping them, you know, move to the next level of their career. A lot of it would come down to confidence and feeling they can talk out, and feeling like they would be able to hold themselves on that sort of level of a panel, because maybe they feel that they've been held back, because if they go into something like this, the males might dominate the conversation. We sometimes have to coach women a lot more when it comes to interviewing for jobs, because they're a little bit less comfortable in putting themselves out there and just talking, so they have to be more prepared. Think about my wife, for example. She hates talking in public, whereas for me it's just natural, because for her it's, you know, it's something that makes the anxiety kicks in, because it's naturally a stressor because of how things have been taught in the past, you know. I think it's all, again, it goes back to what I said earlier on about the International Women's Day. It's around education and letting people know that these things aren't scary. It's okay. You can talk. It's fine. You have a voice. You know, just talk like you normally would with your friends in the bar having a glass of wine. You know, it's no different. You know, the four of us, I have not met the three of you before, but we can sit and chat and talk about this. And just because I'm a man doesn't make it it shouldn't make it any different. It should just be the same. Because if I was a woman, it would be the same conversation, wouldn't it? It's not different. Sorry, I can't answer the question exclusively, but it's a very interesting question.
I would also say, you know, make sure that there is a level of equity or equality amongst the panelists. Because I think a lot of times I see this a lot, right? Like we lack diversity in the senior executive leadership. So let's pull someone that is junior because she's a woman and put her over there. Let's give this, you know, everything else. All the other committees have chief, CFO, COO, CMO, then, diversity. Let's put a director as the head of the diversity council, because we don't have any C's on and we don't have any MDs. So we're just going to artificially bring a woman so that we have a woman represented. I think that's one of the things that you need to be the most aware of, because that woman will feel uncomfortable. I mean, obviously, you know, she is not at the same level, and it's clear that she's being put there because she's a woman. So I think sometimes if that's how, you know, you're trying to make up a panel, then think about if the panel is what you should be working on, or if it's your executive leadership makeup, and cancel that panel and go work on that. But if not, if you are bringing in and you say, I don't have a senior executive load, go to your clients. Go to your clients, go to your suppliers. They will have a senior woman, one of them, and then you bring her in, and then you again show that, look, there is equality in senior leadership. It's just not in this company. And that makes even a bigger, more statement, if you want, for those senior leaders that are sitting in that panel, and say, how come we didn't have, you know, someone to sit instead of, you know, Mary from our client, right? So I think that's if you're going to put a woman in an uncomfortable position, then she's going to feel uncomfortable. I mean, it's the same. If I had a bunch of just very senior women and I bring a young manager, male manager, to sit there and say, we're going to have, I have sat on, women who lunch CEO, just female CEOs table, and I'm going to put this young 35-year-old guy here, he's going to feel uncomfortable and not the most confident either, So it's just, I think if you, what is it that you're looking for? You're looking for, you will find an equal panelist. You might need to look outside of your company, but don't get women to just be a woman in your panel.
Yeah, Bianca, can I ask a question on that? Because I think that's really interesting. Do you think it would be worthwhile on a panel having, so say you've got one company and it has to be from one company, having different people from different levels so that there's different?
I think it depends on what you're talking about, right? For instance, when we used to do onboarding in Visa with ERGs, and our request was that we had one person from each level when you're doing onboarding, so people can actually not just hear from the super senior people, like one day in 30 years from now, you're going to have my job, but also from the folks that are having, so it depends on what you're talking about. But if you're talking about, let's say, women in leadership, and you have very senior men, and then you have a not so senior woman, then I think it depends on what is the topic of your panel.
Yeah.
But I think, it's, if you were talking, for instance, like trends in the industry, and you were bringing like, heads of talent acquisition from all of your key clients, but you had no woman, and from your side you would bring, let's say, an associate, that would not be fair, right? So I think it's just about what is the topic. I think it's very good to have diversity of levels and generations in all panels, but it's important that if you're talking about senior leadership, or if you're bringing heavyweights internally or externally, that you think about the other panelists and balance them out, right, a little bit. I think that was my only position, is that you need to create equity in the way you think about it, and sometimes you need a same level set on certain conversations. It depends what you're talking.
Cool. That was awesome. I learned so much from that, Bianca, and I've got a follow-up question which I think I'm going to answer actually. And it's, the problem is she finds that she invites very senior women to be on the panel, and they seem reluctant to say yes. And I'm interested to know why. So I think there's usually a few things going on for women. Often they're not confident to stand up in front of a group of people. And when I've been working in HR roles and I'm trying to, build up my succession plan and who's going to take over my role, I've had other women say to me, "Oh, Lisa, I couldn't do your role." And I'm like, "Why not?" And she's like, "Well, I couldn't get up and speak in front of people like you do. I couldn't do that." And then that brings me to capability. Sometimes women won't do it because they're not confident and they don't have the capability. So in that instance with my team, I said, "You know how I got good at speaking in front of people?" She's like, "No." I'm like, I did it a lot, and I did it intentionally, and I had a plan that when I looked at senior leaders and the things that senior leaders are good at, presenting is one of the things you have to be good at. And so I spent a lot of time watching TED Talks, reading books about TED Talks, going to HR conferences and saying I'd like to be a speaker. I was terrified, but I did all those things, and now I can, that was 10 years ago, and I can do it. So there's confidence, there's capability, and I think there's also workload, and I don't think we can underestimate workload for senior women in businesses. They're working really hard, usually within their business, and they're usually doing the lion's share at home. They're making sure the kids are okay. They're making sure there's food in the fridge. So they're doing all those extra things. And in Asia, where the whole panel have lived for a while, you often have generations in your home. You might have grandparents and grandparents as well. So that might not be the case in the UK, but there's lots of things put on women and maybe it's too much for them to say, yes, I want to be on a panel.
Actually, on the workload, I thought you were going to talk about the corporate workload, which I think women have the emotional.
Well,
I was just reading
yes.
an article. The emotional caretaking workload of engagement is a lot of times put on women. Oh, we need someone to do this event, whatever event it is. It's in DE&I. Let's get this senior woman. Oh, we need someone to talk to the employees. Let's get this senior woman. We need someone to do our onboarding session. Let's get that. Oh, she's great. She's great with people. Oh, she's very caring. Let's put her like on weekly, dinners and lunches with all the senior new promotion. Oh, the new promotees. Oh, you ask. I have seen on banks and other firms, you ask senior men and senior women how many events they did the last month. I think senior men will, unless they are like launching a product or a new project, they will probably tell you like none. Like, women are always on these extracurricular activities that I am super forward to if it's counting for any kind of bonus points, right? If you're saying to women, we're doing this, but look, talent management, tracking it, your boss putting on your performance management report, you get, extra star from the CEO, we put you 10% on your bonus, great. But if you're doing it, and then at the end of the year, your boss is saying you, I don't think you're very focused. And I think you really spend so much time on people. It's just really, I think you need to be more focused on your targets. And, that is the worst performance feedback and women get it over and over again. And then they say, you know what? I don't want to participate in your panel. Thank you very much. It's not paying my bills.
Too much. Yeah.
Too much, right? So that gets a lot in the way, I think.
Probably it feels like the men in Manulife are the one organizing all these events. It's like
that's because you corral them, Sudesh.
But also because your CEO, I mean Manulife CEO, I've been following Roy for a very long time. He's amazing.
Yes.
He's always out there. He's always recognizing people for work with people. I think that's a great CEO. Like I follow him. I think it's amazing because he's giving those brownie points. So of course the men were like, I want in. I want to get the brownie points. That it's about carrots and sticks with everyone from children to adults. So if your CEO does a great carrot incentive, and I think that recognition is what everyone, but if you're telling we really value this work, but then in the end it's really about your financial targets, it's you're saying something and you're doing, and people care about comp. So as much as we care,
male allies,
sorry, you want to get paid, right? Yeah.
So we have a male allies group. So what they did recently was 4 months ago, they started their own Toastmasters club and encouraging women to come in. And they have now officially become a club participant, and they've got their own district now. So it's a Manulife Toastmasters district, and 80% of the membership of the club are women. And it's sponsored by the Male Allies Group. And this is again helping women to have a voice out there. And it's run by the men. I think it is wonderful.
Brilliant. That is brilliant.
Can I make one add on to what Bianca just saying? Something that just came to me from something my dad used to say. So my dad was a business leader in the UK in the 80s and 90s for which would now be Virgin Bank, I think. But at the time it was owned by National Australia Bank, before that was Clydesdale Bank. He used to build all their data centres. And he used to say to me, I remember him saying to me when I was 18 or 19 that in his team, he would rather the key people around him were female. One, because he felt that the females were more loyal and dedicated. But the second was they would always get the job done because they would overstress about the job not getting done. So therefore, for example, if you're getting asked to go on a panel, but you're really busy at work, your focus is on the business and getting the job done. Whereas if it was me and someone said you want to go on a panel, I'd be like, yeah, why not? I'll be okay. So I don't have that stress. So they almost carry the stress of things need done. I need to get it done, and over panic about it. Whereas I don't know how other men think, but how I think is, it'll be okay. It'll be okay tomorrow. Whereas most of the girls and the ladies I know, it's if it doesn't get done today, then it'll be a nightmare. It'll be a disaster. So it has to get done today.
Yeah. And the irony of it, of all of that is that women need to spend more time building their profile.
Right. Yeah.
And doing all the work.
Yeah, but I mean,
yeah.
you know, if things don't get done today, the world will not end. You know, my mum is a nurse.
No, exactly.
She used to be saving people's lives. She had people die on her, and she used to come home every day and say, "Did someone die on you today, Ross?" When I was getting stressed about my exams, and I'd be like, "No." So, "Oh, someone died on me today." It's like, "Oh, okay."
Okay, perspective.
Okay.
Now
Perfect.
we are at the end of this fabulous hour, and I have learnt so much, and I hope everyone listening in has been learning a lot. Thank you so much to Bianca, Sudesh, and Ross. I feel like you're all my friends, and I really appreciated their input on the call today. And I'm going to hand back to you, Ross.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose for me, it's just a chance to say thank you, everyone, for joining. Again, thank you for Lisa for organising and all the hard work and dedication. We're super excited to see how our survey goes next month, so that we can help educate everyone and, you know, help your business understand what's happening in the outside world. And have a wonderful day, evening, afternoon, wherever you are in the world. And thanks for taking the time out to listen to us and talk about what we do. So, you know, any questions on this, please feel free to reach out to Lisa, Sudesh, Bianca, or myself. See, I'm not the DE&I expert. I'm the recruitment guy. So, if companies do, I'm just giving. These three are way more advanced than me, but I will give you my best opinion on what I see businesses doing, especially around Asia, where I've got plenty of experience. So, thanks.
Thank you. We come to you for jobs. Okay?
Thanks, everyone.
Yeah. Come to you. If you want to use it, come to me.
Take care.
Take care, guys.
Everyone.
Thank you,
So
everyone.
much.
Thank you, Lisa.
Thanks,
Bye.
everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.